is Highway 1 by Brian Turner. This is a poem we see out of the Here Bullet collection. It covers the Highway 80 and Highway 8 in Iraq. Some things we're going to look for in this poem, we're going to see kind of subliminal references to Turner's anti-war stance. We're going to talk a lot about what the Highway of Death was, which I'll mention to you guys. He reads in the first line of his poem. And then we're going to see a little bit of imagery and history. He's kind of presents it throughout this little 16-line poem that's kind of at surface level, not very in-depth, but once you look deeper at it, you can kind of see he has a lot more going on with it. So to start, we'll look at the Highway of Death. He writes, "It begins with the Highway of Death, an untold number of ghosts wandering the street at night, searching for a way home." So the Highway of Death was an incident that happened February 26th and 27th of 1991. The Iraqi army was basically retreating from Kuwait, and American air power basically hit the front and rear of the column that was multiple miles long, and kind of, for a generous term, they created a bottleneck. So no vehicles could go forwards or backwards. They're all stuck within this few-mile stretch of road. And basically, American and Canadian, the Air Forces of America and Canada destroyed 1,400 to 2,000 vehicles were the estimates, and then almost 1,000 troops were killed in some of the higher estimates. So clearly this battle, if you will, that was a sheer demonstration of force by the Allies, and it kind of caused a lot of damage on the Iraqi army. So this is kind of something we see, it subliminally contributes to Brian Turner's anti-war stance. He's, we talked about him in the Janetta lecture, he's mentioned, we can kind of tell that this is where he's from, or that's the school of thought that he has. And if you do research on it, multiple articles I found are talking about how this is not something that was okay. This was an army that was retreating, not for the sake of getting back together to fight again, but to retreat for good. Of course, we have the other school of thought where this is a war, that those were armed units that could potentially take up arms against us again. So you kind of have these different schools of thought on the Highway of Death, whether or not that was something that was okay or not. But from Brian Turner's viewpoint, we kind of see it as something that kind of contributes to his anti-war stance. The next thing we'll talk about is kind of the imagery he presents throughout this poem. Something we have here, he writes, "Past the ruins of Babylon and Sumer through the land of Gilgamesh." This kind of also kind of ties in hand with the history. So you're kind of referencing, you're picturing it as this convoy drives through these streets on Highway 80 or 8, whichever one it may be. This is kind of an ancient place. It's got a lot of history to it, and it's not only now something that he's not trying to give it to you necessarily as it is in the war, but as it once was, the beauty that can exist there. Again, we see the beauty a little bit later in the poem. He writes, he's talking about there's a crane, and this is a bird, on the power lines that one of the soldiers riding in the Humvee shoots. And he writes, "The crane, after he shoots, it's amazed that death has found it here at 7 a.m. on such a beautiful morning." To me, this is kind of another reference to his anti-war stance, actually, because you see this country that could be so beautiful at 7 in the morning, or, I'm sure the sunsets are equally beautiful, yet here's this military convoy rolling through here with a soldier that's going to shoot a bird for no real reason. It's a country that's, he clearly thinks it's beautiful, but instead war has taken over, and it's almost sad that this has happened in this country. And this is kind of going to tie in the history as well. With the history, we see a lot of imagery. So he writes at the end of the poem, or in the middle of the poem, "This is Spice Road of old, where Egyptian limes and sultani lemons swayed in crates, where merchants traded flowers, musks, aloes, and silks from the Orient." So the history of this road is not only important modernly. We've seen that, that's where the Silk Road used to go. That's where the armies, such as the Greek army with Alexander the Great, used it to get to Africa, to get further east. The Mongols could have used it to get further west. It's not only important now, but it has been important all throughout history. It's not just kind of a present thing. So the Highway of Death, the big thing we emphasize here in the poem is we see that these, at surface level, it's a short 4-stanza, 16-line poem with, seemingly very little going on. It just talks about a convoy that's driving through this stretch on Highway 80. And suddenly you look into it more, you can kind of see the things he's trying to emphasize. The Highway of Death has so much history behind it. It's not, it's not only now become an important area. This is a road that CNN has ranked as their number 2 or number 3 deadliest roads in the world. And that's, it's compared with the roads that are South American roads on mountains and things where cars are driving off cliffs to cause deaths. This is in 2 days, February 26th and 27th, this road became the number 2 or number 3 road for most deaths in history, where the other ones are not related to the war at all. So we kind of see that's a whole lot with the Highway of Death. We see the imagery that he talks about in the poem, throughout the poem, referencing kind of his anti-war stance as well throughout, based on how the country has changed, how it once was and how it is now. And then we, that's kind of reference in with the imagery. He's kind of wants you to picture like you're there, to see kind of what he's seeing when he's on the convoy, to see what the people there are seeing and see how it once was, the change that war has brought to the region. Thank you.